Evening, people. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the channel. It must be coming close to Christmas because people are getting busier and busier and the panel is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I think a couple of people are joining us. They're going to be a little bit late, but big up to Dave and big up to Emilio. Dave, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Stan. Yeah, it's been Forest-wise, it's been a bit of a chat-worthy week. Let's put it like that. So yeah, but one chapter ends, another one begins, and there's a game on Saturday, and I can't wait for it. And as I always feel about every game. So yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you. Yeah, great.
Good, man.
Good to see you, lads.
Yeah, absolutely. Emilio, we're going to get into it, but obviously there should be smiles on your faces. Not the best of draws, which we'll go into, but I'm sure you're a happy boy as a Fulham fan right now.
Let's put a little caveat on this show. No black. Well, first of all, happy Christmas, everybody. There you go.
Yeah.
Love it. Quite the draw last night.
Santa didn't do the draw. Satan did the draw, didn't he?
It's crazy, man. Listen, let's talk quickly about it, Emilio, because I want to get into Super League stuff. I want to talk about Forest as well, because Nuno's come in, and also want to talk a little bit about the weekend. We've got a couple of lads hopefully joining us as well. But we might as well talk about the Carabao Cup, Emilio, because obviously Fulham have seen themselves get through to a semi-final. And I must say, you were on last week talking to Connor, Everton fans, saying, I really hope you do it, and you're there. I didn't see the game. I literally saw the goals and the penalties. Probably one of the worst penalties I've ever seen in my life from Onana, by the way. Absolute shambles. Literally just rolled it to the keeper. But you must be happy, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I remember I said this time last week, I said the Everton game was more important than the Newcastle one last weekend. And yeah, we got there. We weren't at our best. We didn't play our normal fluent self, but that's probably testament to Everton. They made it difficult for us, but we had our moments. And when we took, we got a fortuitous goal, a deflection. Some you win, some you don't. And I thought we were good value for holding on to that lead. And then, just a little bit of leggy legs at the end, bad defending. We didn't clear the ball away clear. And then Everton got probably deserved the equaliser, in my opinion. I think they were knocking on the door, but then we looked dangerous on the break. So it wasn't the best quarterfinal in the world. But overall we got there. The penalties was a bit traumatic, to be honest with you. It's like 1 minute, we were playing, obviously, taking us, second penalties there, and Everton kept scoring, and we missed. Bobby Decordova is normally reliable on the spot, missed, and I thought that was it. We've blown our chance, and then, like you said, poor Everton penalties, and bloody Jordan Pickford. It's our keeper was yellow carded for like a bit of time wasting near the ball, getting on the penalty spot. Jordan Pickford doing all his antics, this, that, and the other. And I was going to stick that up your backside, Pickford, when you didn't save the. He does it all the time and gets away with it. Does it for England when there's penalties. He does it for Everton, and that smile was taken off his face on Tuesday night. But overall, we entered the semi-finals for the first time in this cup, and then we expected the predictable draw, didn't we, yesterday? So it's Kevin Price tonight, but it's inevitable, that draw. Come on. Who didn't predict a Fulham Liverpool or Fulham Chelsea semi-final? It was on the cards.
Steve says, explain why the number 3 ball had a marker underneath it. Can understand 6 and 9, but 3.
Well, Steve, did you actually see any of the balls being placed in the hat? Who just went there? Now it's ready for the draw. 4 teams in the draw. Who saw what? It was predictable. Who wants a Fulham Middlesbrough final or a Fulham or Middlesbrough in the final? Neutrals might do, but all these so-called wealthy around, they want to see clearly a 0-0, like you said, Dave, a 0-0 penalty shootout, Chelsea versus Liverpool final. Good luck to those, but we'll make it difficult for Liverpool. We won't do what Ham did yesterday, lawless, and just literally not come up and play pathetic football. You're awful last night, lawless. If you're listening to this, you're terrible.
They were awful, absolutely awful.
5 at Liverpool, Emilio. 5 at Fulham. I mean, the only slight crumb of comfort for me, having lost 5-0 at Fulham, is that a team who I would led to believe were like top 7 or whatever got done 5 at the same time. But they were 3-0 down at half time. We were only 2-0 down at half time at the Cottage. So
they were terrible last night. Come on, whether you got injuries or whatever, you still make a fight of it. You got one 90-minute game to get to a semi-final of a tournament. I don't care however injured your players are, your squad, what illness, you still show up, don't you? Sorry, I think the club of West Ham stand. I know they won the Europa Conference, but still, these are big cups for them. like Fulham for
I'd like
Forest.
to think as well, Emilio, that the weekend's game against Man United is probably less important than winning a Carabao Cup game, in my opinion. If I'm a West Ham,
Yeah.
because for me, West Ham are going to be fine in the league. They ain't going to go down and get relegated. They might try to get a Conference League position if they have a good run. But I'm looking at their league position thinking, surely you're telling me West Ham would rather take a Carabao Cup and an 8th place as opposed to an 8th place and no trophy. Like, why
Yeah,
don't these teams go for it? I just
yeah,
don't.
I agree.
Etta and James Ward-Prowse, he's bringing them on at 3-0 down. What's the point? Game's done. It was poor. And I understand they've got problems in their squad with illness, but you put your best team out there and you give it 110%, and West Ham didn't do neither.
Yeah, and look, I thought, I wanted Fulham to prioritise the game against Everton, and fair play to the manager. He played a pretty strong team against Newcastle last weekend, and then pretty much a strong team against Everton. So to be honest, he stretched the players, playing 2 games in 3 or 4 days. So it's fair play. He didn't sort of alternate much of the squad. He didn't rotate that much, and look, fair plays. He treated the domestic lead as much as important as the cup was. I thought Newcastle game slightly less likely to get something out of it. I thought we could have got a draw, but if it wasn't for the sending off, we probably would have got maybe something out of that game. Overall, we got the result against Everton. Now it's a lottery, really. Let's go to Anfield in 3 weeks' time and turn up, stay in the tie, like you said, Potsy, and we'll take them back to Craven Cottage and make it difficult for them. But we don't want to end up 3-0 down, 3-0, 4-1 down, because then it's tie over, really. So let's see. Let's see what we can do. But we'll be there. We'll be proud. I'll try to make my way up to Anfield in that first week of January, and definitely be there at the Cottage later in January. Whether we're 5-0 down after the first leg or not, I'll be there supporting the club with thick and thin. Whatever happens, Marco Silva will still put in his strongest 11, whether we're 5-0 down or level pegging. Trust me, he will do that. Not like the boys.
Yeah, man. Listen, I was doing a little bit of catch up on TV the other day. I was watching Saturday Social. I know some of the people that go on Saturday Social on Sky Sports, and I was looking at the best players at every club, and I looked at Fulham.
Yeah.
I think they picked Alex Iwobi, who's obviously an old Arsenal boy. I like to see people like that do well. Went to Everton, started off well from what I hear, and just tailed off, and he's gone to Fulham and been put in more of a central position, it seems, and he's doing really well. But apart from him, who's doing well, Emilio, where else do you think you're short, and January being around the corner, do you think you might dip into the market?
Definitely strikers still. I think Jimenez, that sending off last week, it was clumsy. It was not malicious. It was a clumsy challenge. He didn't need to do that, but he misjudged it. He went to VAR, got the red card, and that sort of turned the game in the second half. Then that first half, I thought we did okay, but clearly we're short up in attack. Against Everton, Muniz came on, not 100% fit. Still very raw. We need to invest in the strike. Whether Raúl Jimenez is on form and not being sent off and playing week in, week out, we need to strengthen in attack for sure. I think we need a bit more quality in midfield at time. We've got a guy. I'm just worried. Williams old. Tom Kearney's, who's playing the form of his life at the moment. He's 32, 33. Williams 35, 36. Cordova Reed's 31, 32. We need to be bringing in some youth. Will we do that in January? I don't think we'll panic buy. I think if we can get enough points on the board, stabilise this season, try to hurt Liverpool in the Cup next month. The FA Cup's also there in January, and build for next season. I think we had a chance to push on this year and we didn't do that, but I think we need to more strikers, probably a bit more youth, and build for the future. We've got some good defenders coming through. Tosin, we need to sign. That's the other thing we need to make sure we do, is tie these players to extensions. Tete's contract comes to an end next year. He'll be linked up with some big clubs. Paulinho's, there's rumours every day about where he's going to go. Tosin has come back from injury, wanted to leave the club. He's been outstanding for the last 3 or 4 games, and he was player of the match for me on Tuesday night against Everton. His defending was incredible. Tie him down for the future. So these are the players that we need to tie down, keep them, build for the future with some new strength in certain key areas. But I don't think we'll end up panic buying. To be honest, that's probably not the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, we love good sportsmanship, and a good sport is Everton fan Richo. He says, "Congratulations to Fulham, best of luck in the semis."
It was a very close game, wasn't it? I think at the end of the day, it was 2 evenly matched teams. Everton clearly won't go down. They've got enough. They found their form. They're playing a good brand of football. Defies what Sean Dyche is all about. So fair play to Everton, and I hope you guys stay up, because you're playing a good brand of football, and you made it difficult for us. But it was it was a lottery. It was two evenly matched teams. It was just unfortunately, I said it went to penalties, and it was unfortunately someone has to make an error, which is always sad when it comes to that to the end of a game like that.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, it's always a flip of a coin when it goes to penalties. Dave, let's do it. Steve Cooper's gone. I personally feel like you could have given it a little bit longer, but that's just my opinion. A lot of people felt that he needed to be out because when you go that long without winning football games, obviously the pressure's on. Nuno Espirito Santos is a good manager when you look back at what he did at Wolves, but when you look back at what he did at Spurs, it was a disaster, and apparently he fell out with everybody in Saudi Arabia. So where are you with this one, man? Where are you at?
Open-minded, Dan. Open-minded, I have to be. I'm sad to see Steve go. I think, though, and I've said a couple of times this week on shows that it was inevitable. And now that era, that chapter is closed. There are footnotes coming out of that chapter where it's now becoming quite clear that the relationship between Steve and Evangelos Marinakis have broken down. Mr. Marinakis, I think, wants far more than he's getting, which, given how much money he's put in, is his prerogative. Although I would say to him, you can throw as much money at it as you like, and there's still no guarantee it's going to be successful. I'm looking at my dear friend below, who his team, when they came up maybe 3 or 5 years ago, threw countless millions at it and went straight back down in a whimper. So you don't get any guarantees just for throwing money at it. But I think, I'd love what Steve Cooper's done. He's given me some days and some memories that if you'd asked me 5 or 6 years ago, I would never have foreseen in a million years. In that, for 20 odd years, Nottingham Forest were an embarrassment. A relic, a hulk lying on a beach covered in barnacles. Weren't they good back in the day? And there's this revolving door of non-entities who stayed 10 minutes and had no impact whatsoever. And I kind of thought, when is the one to take us back going to come along? And I was kind of thinking, I'll be 60 soon. I'll be 70 after that. I'll never see it again. I'll never see Forest back in the Premier League. So whether you were Cooper in or Cooper out, you have to thank him for giving it. It's a great message, especially the younger people who support Nottingham Forest, who've had nothing to crow about. The kids, the people in their 20s, the teenagers, the little ones that go, and all those people, they have now got a memory that they can treasure for the rest of their lives. That day at Wembley, and then obviously staying up last year with 30 signings, that took some doing. But the owner has a different view, and we're all on the ride. He's the guy who's driving it. We're just hanging on for dear life.
Yeah.
Trying to keep track of it, so we can have our say. But I said on a podcast last week, we're all essentially powerless, whether we love Steve Cooper or we want him gone. And but I just kind of felt that I thought you might get until after Manchester United a week on Saturday, but I think it had to be done, unfortunately. And now it's becoming clear that the key relationship in the club was fractured beyond repair. Really, and maybe I'm as guilty as anybody. The love that was there and the affection that Steve Cooper engendered in so much of the fan base, not everybody, but in so much of the fan base, probably made the situation worse. I'm kind of confessing and owning up, but I'm not having anybody tell me who I can and can't love. No way. We're into fascism then. I'm not having that. You can't love this guy. All I would say about this guy was he's the only guy in the last quarter of a century who has built any kind of rapport between the team and what goes on the pitch and what goes on in the stand. So give him that at least. The nightmare scenario now for us, well, where we are right now is nobody knows. Do we know if it's going to be better or worse? No. Do we know if Nuno's going to be better than Steve? No. We just don't know. If we get the Wolves Nuno, then I think we're in with a chance. As Dan has rightly said, the Spurs and the Tottenham and Saudi Arabia Nuno, well, that's not, we might be back into the revolving doors territory that we had prior to Steve, and which we see at Olympiacos, Marinakis' other club, on a regular basis. I don't want to get back to that. Stability is crucial, but we're back into instability now. He has to come in and he has to start winning games. He has to get something against Bournemouth. I think if he doesn't get anything against Bournemouth or Newcastle or Manchester United, and then say he gets beat by Blackpool in the FA Cup, we might be having, revolving back to this situation again. So I'm completely open-minded. My fundamental is I love Nottingham Forest. I go to as many matches as I can. And every time Nottingham Forest play, I want them to win. It's about the red shirt. People come and go. People come and go from the club. Managers and players, they're on a they come, they stop for a bit, they go. Depending, some stay a while, they still go. The supporters, they never go. They're the constant. So I'm going to this match on Saturday. I'm really looking forward to going, as I look forward to going to every football match at any stadium. Doesn't matter who it is. And I'm going, right, Nuno, mate, you're our manager. I'm behind you. Let's see how we go. Just give us something. Because I'm telling you, when I came out of the stadium last Friday night, I pretty much lost all of my hope. And while I'm here, can I apologise to all the Sheffield United supporters that for a comment I made last week? I said last week that I thought the Forest were the second worst team in the Premier League as of now. And I thought that Blades were worse. No, we're worse than Blades. Blades are not the worst. We're worse than them. We've got two goalkeepers who aren't good enough and wouldn't get a game in any other team. We've got backup strikers who don't understand what a net is and the white post and the bar. I think they're kind of allergic to it. We haven't got anybody that can open another defence up. In fact, nobody in our squad worries an opponent. All the other 19 teams, when they look at Forest, they might make the odd provision for Morgan Gibbs-White, maybe Anthony Elanga, but most teams at the moment kind of think Forest are a soft touch, and Forest do not offer any kind of technical ability. My view of Forest at the moment, and this is what Nuno has got to address, and he's got to somehow, and I think it's going to take a minor miracle, he's got to somehow make them Premier League standard. I'm telling you, lads, and I've said this before, I came out of that ground on Friday night having lost to 10-man Tottenham, who were not stressed in any way, shape or form. They lost Steve Bissouma and it made no difference. They just carried on being levels above Forest. And I kind of thought that night as I walked out the ground that if Forest had gone to Bramall Lane or Kenilworth Road or Turf Moor, they'd have been beaten at all of them comfortably. I've since watched Ipswich, Leeds, Leicester, Watford, West Bromwich Albion, Hull, and Forest would struggle against all of them. We are the weakest squad in this division, in my view, at the moment. Some people won't want to hear that. Those people who say, oh, well, we'll be all right, we'll finish mid-table. No, give me 17th now. And Nuno has got my full backing. Absolutely. Some people are saying, and it is ludicrous, that's it, I'm not following Forest anymore now that Steve Cooper's gone. Well, hang on a minute. Are you Forest till you die or what? You just get... I think I said on this show last week, if Forest went down, it wouldn't change me at all. I just keep going to matches. So there's no jeopardy for me. I just keep going to matches. But this team,
Dave, you mentioned it earlier when we had all those players. Jokanovic couldn't win a game at the beginning.
Yeah, I remember that.
It persevered. Yeah. Loyalties aside, to be honest, I actually wasn't Jokanovic's biggest fan. I was one of his biggest critics, despite the fact he got us promoted by the player. A bit like Cooper. A lot of synergies there. Got promoted by the playoffs.
Yeah.
Big squad. He didn't quite find the winning formula to get to gel those players. Well, Cooper kept the team up last year and he did a grand job there. But and then I just worry for you. Ranieri came in, didn't quite hit the mark. Then we brought in Scott Parker, and that was something we just want to forget. So I don't know. I understand why they made a decision to exit Cooper, but I'm a little bit split in terms of Nuno, is he the right man for the job or not?
We know what Steve Cooper has already kept Forest up. Now we don't know whether Nuno can.
That's a great point.
I personally, Emilio, you're a Fulham fan. What manager would you rather have? Would you rather have Nuno? Would you rather have Steve Cooper? And that's a genuine question, because if you have the Nuno of Wolves, I think you'd probably go down that route. If you have the Steve Cooper of what Forest does, in terms of him promoting Forest, you probably go Steve Cooper. But I don't know what Nuno is going to be like at Forest, Emilio.
If I'm a Forest fan, you persevere like Burnley. I think we said with Burnley, if they go down this season, keep company and help. He can do what Dykes did a few years ago and got them promoted this next season. I would have done the same with Cooper. Again, your owner's a bit like ours. wanting success overnight. They don't want failure. They're very impatient. Got rid of him. I would have persevered with him because he would have got that team rocking in the championship. I still don't think you would have gone down anywhere. I think there's worse teams
I agree. I actually agree. Like, don't get me wrong. I understand, right? And I'll bring Deji in because obviously he knows Nuno a bit. But like for me, I understood Steve Cooper had a bit of a bad time with Forest. I get it, right? But for me, when you get into like February, March, and Forest are like 17th and it's looking bad, you can then make a decision and go, "Wow, like this is not looking good." But we're not even at Christmas, and Forest, as far as I'm concerned, don't look like they're going down, like for definite anyway. I would say that I disagree with Dave that they're the worst team in the league. I think right now they've played some of the worst football in the league, but I still think Burnley, Luton, and Sheffield United will go down. I do. I hope. I'd love to see the Luton story and see them stay up, but I don't think it's going to happen. And I think Burnley and Sheffield United, they just don't have the squad, in my opinion, to stay up. So I think Forest will be fine. But Deji, what do you reckon? Nuno Santos to Forest, bruv. Where'd you see this going?
Yeah, no, I'm with you, my good friend Dan. Dave, I think you're a bit harsh, mate. I didn't think you guys did too bad last week. I mean, obviously, your game is all about the physicality, and it was being like in the Gladiator Arena last week, and I couldn't wait for my boys to get out of there because I was so scared that you might take off a couple of ankles, some teeth, and some ears. Yeah, you know what? Nuno is a weird one because he did do a good job at Wolves. I think the Spurs job was a bit too big for him. And so I'm kind of indifferent. I agree. I think Cooper was doing an all right job. You've got to remember, he brought in about 20 players. And what I hate about the Premier League is what I call the goldfish moment. Someone's done the great job of bringing you into the Prem. And as soon as there's a couple of bad run of games, you get rid. There is no guarantee that Nuno can do a better job than Steve Cooper. Someone who's taken 20 brand new players, kept you in the league, and to be honest, you've had an unfortunate run of games, but you've been unlucky in quite a few games. I could see you giving a lot of teams a tough time. So I think it's a bad move. I think Cooper's a better manager. Nuno, with all those kind of players that still haven't embedded themselves in that Forest as well. These are Cooper's players. There's a reason why he bought them. Yeah, I think Nuno will probably struggle. But that's not because he's not. He's an all right manager, but you've got to remember this is the Premier League, and I think there's something about consistency and honouring those people who are starting a project. You might go up, come down, and go back up. But to change him, I think that could be the reason why you guys will go down. Even though I would have said before that you were too good to go down.
Yeah.
I think, Deji, just coming back on your point about Friday night, mate, I absolutely take your point that Forest put a lot of effort in and there were some chances. But you always, the way I looked at it is you need a level of technical ability. And I don't see that in our squad. I think, like you've just alluded to, mate, it's about the physicality and it's about we're Nottingham Forest, we're going to try our guts out. But it'd be nice at some point to think that one of our players, is like somebody who kind of every team think, right, we've got to watch this guy for Forest. Back in the day, it was kind of Brennan Johnson. When he's fit, it's Taiwo.
Yeah.
At the moment, I just see a gang of lads who the effort is not in doubt, but I just feel that the effort will only take them so far. And so the thing is now, mate, we're into like, okay, Nuno, let's see what you can do. I haven't a clue, Deji, at the moment. I really haven't a clue. And so
But you had Callum Hudson-Odoi on the bench, and when he came in, he was sourcing. He came in, he scores a rocket of a top bins goal.
Yeah,
and I did think to myself, I was hoping not to see him on the pitch, and he came on with like the last 8 minutes, which I thought was extremely strange. But when you haven't got Taiwo up top, you need a bit of flair. And I was just wondering what Cooper's game plan was because here's. Hudson-Odoi, I mean, look, I haven't watched too many of the games, but the game was calling for a player like him with the crowd behind you at the City Ground to come on and get the crowd behind the team. Do you know what I mean? Instead, it was Toffolo.
I think, Deji, I think, mate, it was. I think what probably the owner wants to see, and I think what a lot of the fans want to see, is something a little less conservative. They want to think, to hell with it. Let's go for it. Now, the thing is, against Bournemouth on Saturday, and let's make no bones about it, to all intents and purposes, to a neutral, that looks like an away banker. The way Bournemouth are playing against us. Now, I said to somebody today, my good friend Sam Davies, I was on Back of the Net, and I said, Bournemouth have just gone to Manchester United and won 4-0. I know it was officially 3, but it was 4.
Yeah, it was
right?
4. Let's go 4.
Could Nottingham Forest go to Manchester United and win 4-0? No, they couldn't. And so I think, you know, I know United are not great. Yeah,
you almost won that Old Trafford, though. To be fair, I hear what
and it was
saying.
a dive as well.
Yeah.
That penalty was never a penalty.
You were robbed in that game, if you ask me.
Yeah, and that also speaks to another point. I think that is getting a lot of people kind of gnashing their teeth at Forest, either inside the club and outside of it. Forest have actually left a lot of points on the pitch this year. There've been a hell of a lot of. Could have got something at maybe at Arsenal, could have got something at United, should have beaten Palace at Selhurst. Yeah. There have been, we were all over Manchester City when they had Rodri sent off. There have been games where we kind of thought, should have got something maybe from a very poor game at Wolves a couple of weeks ago. Really, the only striping we had, we got beat 3-0 at Liverpool. Fulham just destroyed us. Which I actually think is the worst performance from a Nottingham Forest team I've seen for a long, long time. And I'm 60 next birthday. So it's not all bad, but it just feels at the moment like something that I can't see, some hidden, some Easter egg somewhere is going to be opened up and Forest are going to do. If you ask me at the moment, do Forest have another gear that they can go to? I don't see it. I might see it on Saturday and I kind of think, great, that's okay. We'll take that on to St James's Park and then on to, City Ground against United the following Saturday. But they just, the first time I've walked out of the Forest game on Friday night where I kind of thought, this lot are out of their depth. So, but like Dan said, we're in December. If this was late February, March, then the alarm bells would be, they wouldn't be like tinkling away like Christmas bells. It'd be like jangling like a fire klaxon, So we'll see how we get on. I mean, I love Steve Cooper. I will always love Steve Cooper. My doomsday scenario is that he goes to somewhere else. And I think we all pretty much know where he's going to go. And at the end of the season, he's sat there and they're nice and safe. And Forest are like looking at trips to Plymouth, Rotherham, Birmingham, places like that. But
I don't
we
think
just do not
Dave.
know.
I just don't see Forest going down, even with Nuno. Like, even if it goes a bit wrong, I think I honestly think there's at least 3 worse teams than Forest, and I think that Forest will get it right with the amount of players they've got. When Taiwo does come back, when you get Sangare back actually playing in that middle with Mangala, your physical side are hard to beat.
Dan, he needs to show somebody. He for a lot of people, Sangare at the moment is the embodiment of poor recruitment, and he really needs to step up to the plate, that guy. And
because I like him. When you signed him, I thought he'd be good, but he hasn't been, has he?
But no. Do know is the fact that Tottenham, he inherited a squad, didn't do particularly well, didn't really set the world alight. Wolves, he had time to build that squad, get the players. He hasn't got that luxury now. He's got to hit the ground running very quickly.
He's got to win Saturday, Emilio, and then he's got to at least be respectable at Newcastle. And then if we come back in like a fortnight's time and Forest have got some points, I don't know, 5 or maybe 7 points, and he's beaten Manchester United at the City Ground, then the conversations are different. It's I find it fascinating. We're in this hinterland between one reign and another reign. What I would say about Nuno, he gave a very impressive press conference when he first came, and he spoke really, really well. So that kind of bodes well. But it's going to take my. Do you know my fear? Dan, I hear what you're saying about Luton, Sheffield United, and Burnley, but my big fear is Luton Town. Right now, I always thought that Everton would be safe once they took the 10 points off them, because nothing drove Everton closer together as a unit than that and gave them a cause. I'm telling you now, when Luton Town go out against Newcastle United on Saturday afternoon or whenever it is and go anywhere, they are going to be playing for Tom Lockyer. They've already got this, everybody's written us off. They've got that relaxation. Now they've got a cause and they'll play for Tom Lockyer. And so, Forest have got to make sure they keep Luton, and it is Luton of the bottom 3, no disrespect to the other 2. It's Luton that I kind of think are the ones who might grab hold of Forest and drop them into the bottom 3. But who
Interesting.
knows?
Yeah, who knows indeed, man.
Who knows? Who knows?
Big up Mark. Mark says, I think Cooper was given the players by the owner rather than choosing who he wanted in the squad. Any manager going to struggle under those circumstances. And to be fair, Nuno is going to have to come in and straight away. I don't think it's a bad game to start off. I'm not saying that Bournemouth are poor. I think Bournemouth are a good side and they've started to pick up now. But I do think that Forest, if they were to pick somebody, they could. It's better than playing Man City in it, the Etihad. Let's be real. So, let's see. Let's see, man. Let's see. Deji, let's bring you in, bro. Tottenham Hotspur. The situation is that you're looking at a few players, bruvs. The January transfer window is going to be open in less than a couple of weeks now. So, what's happening at Tottenham, man? Where are you looking at, and what you're looking at strengthening, bruv?
Yeah, I mean, look, let's just be real, Dan, and thank you for bringing me in again. I will be very, gracious because I love what my team is doing this season. Postecoglou's got Spurs playing arguably the best football in the Premier League, but that's for another show. So what we need is a centre-back, and we've got this geezer called Togiba. He's the Nice centre-back at the moment. He's an absolutely fantastic player. He's just as quick as Van de Ven, and some have said if we do get him in, then we have the fastest centre-back pairing in world football. We talk about Pep changing the game. That will be Ange changing the game. Yeah, fast centre backs. Let that sink in for a moment. So yeah, he seems like a quality player. I want us to bring him in because Romero is a accident waiting to happen. I love him. I think he's good. I love his energy. But let's be honest, we can't have him doing the Basuma for us. Basuma, I love him to bits, but he's missed out on 7 games. And when you're missing out on 7 games. Due to not injury but suspension, then you're becoming a bit of a liability for the team. You're supposed to be fit and healthy to play matches, not sit on the bench because you've had another red card. And Romero is capable of seeing another red this season. Hence why I think we need that backup. The other thing is that Spurs, we are looking at a potential winger, the guy that chopped up Manchester United, a guy called Rooney. I can't pronounce his surname, the Copenhagen left footer, who plays a little bit like Kulusevski. He's only 17 or 17, 18. What a player, what a baller. I don't know if we need him because I think Kulusevski does a great job. I also think Brennan Johnson can do a job on the right-hand side. But with Kulusevski showing us that he can play the number 10, the big question for Spurs has always been if Madders gets injured, who's going to come in? Is it Lo Celso? Is it someone else? I think Kulusevski can play that role. This whole injury crisis Spurs have had has been like a blessing. It's been a curse, but also a blessing because we've been able to try other people in other positions. So Kulusevski could play that role. So I could see this geezer coming in and doing that. And then potentially a striker. There's murmurs about Ivan Toney. I can't see it because I think we've been priced out of the market. Arsenal probably want to go in and get that, but I wouldn't mind your lad, Dave. I don't mind that Taiwo. I think he fits the Taiwo. We'll all go for him. Or Braithwaite. I was having a good conversation with Connor, the Everton fan, earlier today, and he mentioned Braithwaite being a star player. Mate, I'll take him off their hands as well. So for us, I think if Spurs can get a centre back and someone to kind of a Calvin Phillips type or a winger. We're looking at Rafinha as well. We're looking at Jota. I think Jota's that's likely, or this Rooney kid. Then that would be all right. But I think Spurs, we definitely need a centre back. We can't go. I mean, our cover for Romero is Emerson Royale, and I've got nothing negative to say about Emerson Royale, but you can't be playing a right back, centre back. I mean, I know elite players are versatile, but you can just see it looks wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Defensively, like Emerson's not so bad, He's a bit of a clown going when you actually look at him as a footballer. Defending is probably one of the only things he can do. However, yeah, you're right. You don't want that. And like Romero and Bissouma, I actually rate them both very highly. I think they're very good players, but they need calming presences alongside them because they're ticking time bombs. They cannot help themselves. It's like, I'm not comparing the footballer because obviously he was a nightmare for us, but that David Luiz was like this. You knew he was going to get red cards. He was going to make mistakes. He was going to pull shirts. He was going to be a liability. And he just couldn't help himself. You've got to replace that, or you've got to at least have cover coming in for when it happens. So I don't think that Tottenham have got that. Certainly at the back, you've had your injuries with Van der Ven. And in midfield, I don't really know who your backup is for. Is it Højbjerg? Is it your backup for Bissouma? I don't even know. Højbjerg.
You know what? Funny enough, people talk about Tottenham not having strength in depth, but the one thing I can say, for me, the true measure of a good manager is being able to squeeze every last bit of juice out of your players. And the one thing you can say out of Postecoglou, he's squeezing out the juice. I mean, we've got Ben Davies doing the job. Who would have thought Ben Davies would go on a run of games and actually be doing all right? And Højbjerg can't start for Spurs. So as a backup, he's a very good backup to have. Very calm, mature player. I liked Højbjerg last season. I think he did a good job under Conte. He was one of the ever presents. He actually started getting goals. But to think that he can't start, Pape Sarr starts ahead of him, Bentancur starts ahead of him. It means that we've got a great player off the bench that can come in, and that shows depth for me. If people are arguing, so yeah, he comes in for Bissouma for the next run of games. He will appreciate it. He will crack on. He's a consummate professional. Pape Sarr, I think people talk about Basmati rice, but the truth of the matter is, Pape Sarr is really sourcing and really doing a great job out there. So put some respect on his name. And Lo Celso got 2 goals for Spurs and then got dropped. The luxury of being able to drop someone who's on form. Postecoglou is a good manager, is what I'm saying, and he's been able to. He is. Well, yeah.
Agree with that.
Well, listen, I think it's horrible because I don't like any Tottenham manager, but he's the one that I look at the moment and have to say fair play to, because it's horrible having to like a Tottenham manager. But I do like him. I like every way he composes himself. I like him in press conferences.
Good man. Yeah.
Just seems to be a good footballing man and just a good man, to be fair. But
true.
I think Tottenham will struggle. I said they would because of their squad depth. I know Deji's commented on a couple of positions where they do have depth, but I think they're going to struggle. And I think if they were to go and add to that in the January, then I think they could have the Champions League to fight for sure, man.
But Dan, you say struggle. Sorry, just to kind of chime in. You know me. I love my club. I love Spurs, and I'll wear it on my chest. But when you look at from the kind of the debacle after the Chelsea game, the only game that Spurs didn't play well was Wolves. We had Eric Dyer and Ben Davies in the period, and I'm not going to lie, if I had Eric Dyer behind me, if I was playing Sunday League football, I would probably run in goal, to be honest with you. So I don't blame the lads for sitting back. But since he changed it with Emerson Royale and Ben Davies, I thought we went toe-to-toe with Man City with a depleted team. We outplayed Aston Villa. Okay, I'm not so sure. I mean, Arsenal did all right, but we could have had 7 in that first half. We could have had 7 in the first half against West Ham. Moyes even comes out to say, bloody hell, I'm so grateful the game's over because we were lucky tonight. And then we went to the City ground and we played a bunch of gladiators and we were able to win 2-0, and I mean that with the greatest respect, Dave. It was a game. With this depleted team, we've outplayed everyone that we've come up against, and so people say you were gonna lose players and it was gonna show. Yeah and no, but if you think about it, it's only showing because we didn't take our chances. Had we taken our chances, I reckon Spurs would be top of the league.
Yeah, but that's
not banter. That's not people come out.
No, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's calm to say that, but didn't you win like 1 in 5 or something? And then like you'd lost to West Ham, you'd lost to Wolves, you'd lost to Villa. These are games you lost. Do you know what I'm saying?
We lost, but what I'm trying to say is if you looked at the game, we weren't outplayed. We just didn't take. Son scored a hat trick of offsides in the Villa game. We could have had 7 in that first half. The game.
Can I come in, Dan? Can I come in, Dan? And I kind of see where Deji's coming from because I've watched some Tottenham games. Like if you think about it, the Tottenham Chelsea game is one of the most astonishing matches you've probably ever seen in your life. And up until the point of the sending off, Tottenham were all over Chelsea. And you kind of thought, how many are Tottenham going to get against Villa? first half, you kind of thought, God, Villa are going to do well to stay in this game. Our game, it doesn't really fit into that sequence. But there have been other games where Tottenham sort of flex their muscles, and then having done so, they don't quite finish the job off. They really, from the position they were in against Villa and the position they were in against West Ham, another one, and actually the position they were in against Chelsea, if Tottenham had maintained what they were doing, they'd have got 9 points from those rather than losing them all. So, while Dan, your point is, at the end of the day, they're not wins. I do also see where Deji's coming from in that there were positives to take from those games. But I do think Deji's absolutely right. The Mickey van der Ven is a huge loss for him. Maddison's a loss
as well. I think Maddison's for me.
Absolutely. But I think that Mickey is in some ways the biggest loss. And if Tottenham could find a guy to go alongside Mickey, and if it's this guy from Nice, I think he said, then Tottenham are good. I think they're in the mix for that 4th or maybe 5th Champions League spot. And I'm with like you lads, and I think the 4 of us will probably agree that the guy who runs Tottenham Hotspur is just a superb football manager, and he's a proper decent guy. I think his greatest moment as Tottenham's manager wasn't anywhere near a football pitch. It was in a press conference where he allowed a little boy with Down syndrome to speak, and he showed what class he had. And if I'd have been a Tottenham player, I'd have thought, I want to play for this guy.
Yeah.
And I think, I tell you what, Steve Cooper claimed close to being sacked last year after a game against Leicester. And somebody said to me, do you think he'll go? And I said, I don't know. Who would you want if he went? I said, go and get Ange Postecoglou from Celtic at Forest. I'd love that guy. He's got a brilliant personality. I tell you what, I've seen him. He did a post-match interview at Dean Court earlier in the season. I think Tottenham won it down there. Yeah. It was one where Maddison took a corner and he was laughing with the Cherries fans, right? And Ange Postecoglou, after that game, did an interview with Joe Cole and Peter Crouch, right? And there's a bloke fitting a microphone to Ange, right?
I remember
and
that.
The bloke comes up and Ange goes, hey, mate, introduce yourself next time, eh? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody in the studio followed. And he just strikes me as the sort of bloke that when the Tottenham lads go in that dressing room or they're on the training ground, I bet they don't half do some laughing because I bet he makes them laugh. I think Ange Postecoglou is a total breath of fresh air. I absolutely adore the guy. I think he's great. And where are we
saying them for Spurs this year? Because I think they'll fight for Champions League personally. Where are we saying? Is that right?
Villa and Tottenham's flying the ointment, I think.
Deji's going to say they're in a title race. Deji's going to tell me they're in a title race.
I can't help but say, I will have to say on your channel, Dan, Spurs are in the title race. And I'll explain why. You know, Dave is he's more versed in the English language, kind of articulated it best. You know what I mean? We would have had 9 points, but for the debacle of that Chelsea game. And that's why I'm not happy with Romero, because I think if Romero doesn't go off, lose his head, maybe we don't lose Madders or Van der Ven. One of them stays on the pitch, but it was a mess anyway. But points-wise, we're still in the mix. Right? We got a draw against City. We beat Liverpool. We beat United. We drew at your gaff. Yeah, remember, we went to your gaff and outplayed you in your turf. Yeah, people keep forgetting that. And we've been managing to do what we did. We outplayed you. Let's put some respect on it. If we get the 3 players that, one of the things that I think, when you think Spurs, you think nah. But when you look at Postecoglou and what he's achieving with this team, we shouldn't be where we are in 4 months. He's only been at the club 4 months, and look what we're talking Champions League.
He's done a great job. I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that.
So what I'm saying is, bring in 2 players. Madders comes back in Jan. Van der Ven comes back in Jan. Who's going to stop Spurs?
All right, let me answer that then, right? And I'll bring Emilio in on this. I'll tell you what, I'll bring Emilio in first, and then I'll answer that. What are your thoughts on Spurs, Emilio? Are they in a title race for you?
Not title race, no. I think they've got a lot to look forward. They've got players coming back from injury. When's Maddison due back? January?
Yeah, but I reckon there might be a surprise. It's Christmas, so I think there's a surprise on the cards.
Christmas present for James Maddison.
He's in a stocking in Deji's living room. Hi, Deji.
I don't think you've got the legs and the depth to win the title. Top 4 is achievable. Man City, I think, are going through a bit of a sticky run. They'll get better. Villa How long can they persevere and pursue this winning run? They're doing excellent, punching above their weight and fair play. Liverpool to me look the most complete at the moment. Weird, I think the most consistent.
Yeah.
But look,
I'd agree with that.
in Premier League for neutrals, it's great. You know, at the end of the day, we're not seeing the likes of Man City storming the league and in Arsenal, Liverpool. I don't think Tottenham have got enough depth and to compete for to win the Premier League. Fourth place, definitely. Newcastle are knocking on the door to you as well, so you've got to be kept on your toes. Newcastle have gone through a bit of a sticky patch themselves, loads of injuries. You and Newcastle are very similar. Good manager, good brand of football, many injuries. Who's got the depth to push on for that fourth, fifth place? I think for you, it's between you and Newcastle fighting for that fourth place. I don't think, Deji, you've got enough there to win the league.
Let me just add to that, Dej, right? Let me add to it. We were in it last season. We bottled the title. We threw it away, right? And our strength in depth weren't good enough. Yeah. So Saliba got injured and we had not enough cover. And we would have struggled with Saka and still would, by the way, because I still don't think we've done enough in this window, in the summer window, that is. We need to go and get at least 2, maybe even 3 in January if we want to try and compete with Man City. And that's our squad depth. And our squad depth is like clear of Spurs. And I don't think the Arsenal.
I don't know if it's clear of Spurs, Dan. Sorry, and I don't mean to.
Why? Go on then. Do you think Tottenham?
You've got 3 players. You've got 3 players that could start in your starting 11. Trossard, the guy shivering me timbers. We ain't really seen much of him, but let's just give that one. And who's the other one? Emil Smith-Rowe. No one else will do anything in your starting 11. No, sorry, Partey. I mean,
Tomiyasu.
Tomiyasu will not.
Nah,
Tomiyasu wouldn't display Serge Aurier at Nottingham Forest. That's the truth.
Oh my God! You know how bad that player is, Serge Aurier.
But Tottenham can bring on Højbjerg. We can bring on Brennan Johnson. I mean, he's starting now because of injuries. We got Bentancur that hasn't, mate, that's quality, mate. That's arguably just as good as your 3, if not better. But I will say this to you, Dan. In the season that Leicester won the league, we all were waiting for them to fall off. And guess what? It's the beauty of hindsight. It never came. Now, this season, Man City's already lost 3 games this season. When you're going to win the Prem, you can't lose more than 3 or 4 games. And I'm looking at Emilio and I'm looking at Dave because they're going to be nodding their head in agreement with me.
Yeah, true.
City's already lost 3 and we know they're going to lose more. Yeah?
Yeah.
Arsenal's already lost 2 and we know they're going to lose more.
Saturday's massive for Arsenal.
Right.
I think Saturday is huge for Arsenal.
Liverpool's only lost 1, but I think they've been a bit fortunate. They're gonna need to play a lot of the games away. Mate, so what I'm basically saying is it's going to take about 80 to 84 points to win the league. This is not 96, 97 points that was last year. It's fair game. It's fair game right now. I'm not saying Spurs will win the league, but I do think it's a 5-horse race, legitly. I do think.
Do you think you'll finish above Villa and Newcastle?
Yes. I'm not thinking about Villa and Newcastle.
Do you think Villa have got a worse squad than Spurs?
Dan, the way you said that, you asked me that question, it was almost a bit, and again, it was almost a little bit arrogant because the question shouldn't be whether Spurs finishes above Newcastle and Villa. The question coming out of your mouth do you think Spurs will finish above Arsenal?
You do. You do.
He does. Deji, just leave that face, mate. Deji, don't say anything. Just leave that face there, mate.
And you do think Spurs will finish above Arsenal?
I'm not saying anything. I've just thrown the question out there.
Trolling.
Brilliant, Deji.
Mate, listen. I think when Spurs have got every player fit, I think their 11's decent.
Yeah,
I think their 11's decent. I think every single signing, I've said this to Deji before, has been a hit. I think Vicario has been a class signing. I think I can never say his bloody name. I just call him Destiny because I don't know how you say his surname. But he's been class.
Yeah.
Van der Ven has been class. And I think when Van der Ven is next to Romero is better.
Yeah.
Pedro Porro, I don't think he can defend, but he's great going forward. I think Bentancur, when he's fit, is class. I think Maddison is class. I think he's more than class. I think
Brennan.
Bissouma's a quality player. I like Son. If I'm honest, I've always thought Son is a top player. I'm not so sure about Kulusevski. People told me he's better than Saka. I'm still waiting to work out whether he's better than
This season is showing he's better than Saka this season.
who?
Kulusevski.
You think he's been better than Saka this season?
This season, I think when he first burst into the scene, remember they're both the same age. People always forget that. They're both
Yeah. They're young. Yeah, they're young.
Right. So when he first burst into the scene, he showed levels, I thought. And then obviously last season he did. But you got to also remember what these players are doing under what management. He was under Conte, and Conte is a madman, to be honest with you. But since this season, especially when he went into the number 10, it's almost like he's woken up. And Kulusevski has been sourcing. He's actually one of our... Someone asked me this the other day. He's the one player we can't afford to take off. And if he continues at the rate he's going, he's going to have a better season than Saka. So I think it's up in the air. But what I loved, Dave and Emilio and our good friend Dave, both Daves, is that we've got Dan, who's an Arsenal fan, almost wax lyrical about Tottenham Hotspur because he pretty much named 11 players that he liked.
Yeah.
That's the madness.
I don't like any of your players.
People call me delusional,
Tottenham, right?
but you could probably name 11 Spurs players you like.
Yeah, Deji, the gaffer looks
your
it
players,
all.
man. Let's have it right. But I rate your 11. But I don't think your squad's good enough. I don't think it is. Which is why I think you will finish in a Champions League spot, 5th, or you might sneak 4th ahead of one of them. But I don't know. It depends on your injuries for me. But I think our squad is clear as Spurs, man. Sorry. Like I think we are maybe 5 players off of having a top quality squad that's good enough to win the league. I still think we're short, and I've said that to Arsenal fans who don't think we are short. I think we are short. When you compare it to Man City going for a title, I don't see Spurs going for that. I don't think City will look at Spurs and go, yeah, I think their squad's better than Arsenal and Liverpool's, and I think they're up there with us. That's just me, though. But I admire the optimism, but I just don't see Spurs in the title.
I'll just say this, and I promise I'll keep my mouth shut for a good 5 minutes. We went with a depleted team to the Etihad, and we came away with a point. Yeah, we managed to score 3 and conceded 3. We beat Liverpool, beat Man United. We went to your gaff, and we had a 2-2 draw over there. So just to remind you, because it's so easy to forget. But also, just to say that everybody knows that Arsenal are having a great season so far. They've had a great season. They've not really had any blip. Declan Rice, everybody's waxed lyrical about him and telling me that he needs to have the Ballon d'Or. And on the flip side, Dan,
I don't know about that. It's quality, but
on the flip side, you would agree that Spurs, especially in the last 3 weeks, have had a bit of a disaster. We've had a lot of injuries, and it shows that we haven't got any squad depth. Yet you're only 6 points ahead of Spurs.
That's because Spurs had a great start, though. Because I've just said to you, when you have an 11, I think you're a good side. But the squad depth is what will let you down. Which is why, Deji, if you wouldn't have had that squad depth, maybe you would have been up with us.
You're right. But one thing we all love about Arsenal is that you're also going to go through your barren run. I'm leaving it like that because we know it's coming.
Okay, that wasn't a question. That was just a fact.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, we know that Arsenal are going to go through their tough time. Arguably, we're going through ours. Man City are going through theirs. United's going through theirs. The only 2 teams that haven't had a bit of a blip yet, which is coming, is Liverpool and Arsenal. And I will be here on this show with you, holding your hand when you go through the blip. The question is, how long are you going to go through the blip for? Last season, it was the last 7 games. And I was kind of hoping that you were going to take the Premier League chase to the wire. But then you guys kind of just left us. But that's last year, and we'll focus on this season. But I hope Arsenal doesn't have a blip this season, because the only way you can do what you think you're going to do is if everything goes according to plan.
Well, listen, I still think we won't win the league. I still think we'll come second. And my prediction was that we ain't done enough. Now, that could change in January. And I actually think January is massively important, not just for Arsenal, but for Liverpool in this title race. Because if Liverpool go and buy a number 6 and they go and get another centre-half, I think they're right up there as well. That's where I'm at, man. Villa, I don't see it. A lot of people are saying, why, Dan? Why aren't they in the title race? I don't personally see them in a title race. But I'd say that they are definitely in one if Spurs are apparently in one, because right now Unai Emery is absolutely smashing it, man. So let's see what happens, innit? I want to quickly touch on, just before we go, this European Super League thing and get your opinions on it just very quickly, because there's a lot of people that are pulled out. Apparently it's Arsenal and Liverpool they're waiting for in the Big Six. Everyone else has said, nah, we don't want no part of it. I'm amazed the Cronkies haven't come out after the disastrous protest that we all did about it last time and just like nipped it in the bud. But apparently it's still waiting for Arsenal and Liverpool. United, City, Spurs, and I've missed one. I've all come out. Chelsea. There we go. I've all come out and said no, thank you. Let's start. We'll come to me and Dej last, because obviously it's more about our clubs because we're in that stature. But Dave and Emilio, like, your thoughts as Forest and Fulham fans about a Super League in whatever format. I mean, we've seen the Champions League already sounding very similar to a Super League in the format next season of all these teams, and then you got 8 in all the league. There was a round robin, then 8 go through, 8 do a playoff. You can finish bottom and get a playoff. It's mad. I don't get any of it. It's just very, very odd. If you're going to stick teams into a European competition, then do a knockout like you used to in the European Cup years ago. So where are you at, Dave? Start with you, bruv.
Well, you just hit my nail on the head there, Dan. I just think, let's go to straight knockout. Let's do it like that. Home and away legs, like it used to be back in the day, and go back to a knockout. I think there's so much tinkering with the format that you kind of it just loses any sense of permanence or any sense of gravitas. It feels like, it reminds me of like back in the day, we had these other trophies like the Zenith Data Systems, the Simod Cup. They were kind of trophies that were in there to kind of fill a gap. And I mean, I don't have TNT, so I can't watch European games live. And I actually feel like I'm not missing very much. Now, if by some miracle, some kind of parallel dimension scenario where Nottingham Forest are in Europe, actually again, because we were before many years ago, then I might take to watching it. But I find the whole thing unbelievably tedious, and no amount of switching the format is going to grab my attention and say, right, I'm going to watch Barcelona versus Lazio or whatever. And I just think, that the protests, which I think took some people, what it did when it reared its head, however many, a year, 18 months ago, whenever it was, a lot of people, I think, had their heads in the sand and then had their heads dragged out of the sand by the reality of what the ordinary supporter thinks. And I remember Gary Neville, not everybody's cup of tea, but on that occasion spoke beautifully about what it means to ordinary supporters like you, Dan, like Deji, like Emilio, and like me, and like Dave Gregory, and like all our other great 12-man people, right? It's about our club, our identification with that club, and in most cases, if not all cases, that identification with the community. Now, if for example, we're going to get, I think they kind of look at the NFL and they see the NFL as like franchises, and we'll play some games in Frankfurt, we'll play a game in Mexico, we'll play some games in London, and it becomes a global thing. Well, the Premier League doesn't need to do that because its reach is already global. It's probably the biggest sporting league on the planet. And I just think that if you're saying, Dan, I mean, and I haven't kept tabs on it today because there's all this Cooper Nuno stuff been going on, but if you're saying that 4 of our supposed big 6 have already said, they're already knowing what the fan reaction is going to be. Because if this thing comes about and it becomes a sort of a European league and all that, and you're an ordinary guy who works hard during the week to earn his money to go and watch, say, Arsenal or Tottenham Hotspur or Fulham or Nottingham Forest, and then they're saying to you, well, no, this next match that you desperately want to go to is, thousands of miles away on a plane that you can't afford, then it just loses its. I just feel with all of it that the presidents of Real Madrid and Barcelona want to bend everything to their will.
Yep.
They know that their clubs aren't what they used to be. Real Madrid might be. They've had to sign an Englishman to give them a boost, Real Madrid are. Barcelona are a shadow of what they were. And those two guys are, I think they're dictators. I think they want to, what they want to do, they want to guarantee victories every time for their club. There's talk about money and all that, what they're doing, like we want to win. And I just think this, I'm sure actually, maybe after I've gone in years to come, and the world has changed, and who knows where it's going to go. There might be a European Super League, but as of right now, I think the most important people in football, right, the supporters, without whom there would be no game, they kind of want to keep it as near to what it is as possible. That might sound like they want to avoid change, and there's always change in life, right? But at the moment, it feels like they just don't want to lose that connection with it, and they certainly don't want to lose that connection based on the whims of two silly old men sat in Spain. And I mean, if you go back to when the whole thing fell about in the 18 months ago, and everybody in this, all these clubs basically shat themselves. And, oh my God, what have we done? Supporters at Chelsea were angry. Supporters at Arsenal were Chelsea. Supporters at Liverpool, City, United, Tottenham were angry. Them two silly old men in Spain who are probably like, I don't know what's going on with them. Can they even put their own clothes on in the morning? We want to win every game. Well, sorry, Real Madrid and Barcelona. I mean, I got to the point where I got bored I'm bored with Real Madrid and Barcelona. What I would like, I would almost like, and I'm sorry I'm going on, I'd almost like a system where you get the one thing with the NFL you get, using that as an example, or the NHL or Australian Rugby League, is any team can set out at the start of the season with a feeling that we've got a chance of getting to a Super Bowl or a grand final or a Stanley Cup final with like drafts and things like that. Here, when you look at the Champions League, there's only like 3 or 4 who could possibly win it, and you know that before it's even started. So I just think the whole thing is like smoke and mirrors, and whatever they do, it'll be just as dull as it is now, I think.
Listen, I agree with everything you've said, Dave. I can't disagree with it. Emilio, I'm all for change if it's changed for the better. And I think when the European Cup changed to the Champions League, people will say it's changed the spectacle, it's got it making it better. I don't think this will make it better. I think what it will do is it will allow people to be greedy and more greedy. And I think that's what this is going to boil down to. And I think that Dave Gregory said it very, very clear in the chat earlier that this is the start. Brilliantly. And when it does happen, we might have to go watch our team in Saudi Arabia away, or we might have to go watch our team in Australia or America or Mexico or Brazil. And it's going to ruin the fans' perspective. And I think this is something that just can't happen. And I'm glad the teams are coming out again saying, no, thank you. We don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah. But to me, I think, look, totally agree 100% everything you said, Dave. The reality is these owners, what do they care about the fans? We mean nothing. How many season ticket holders have Forest got, Dave? 30,000? 23.
Yeah.
In many years to come, you'll get to those Champions League positions, right? Get Nuno, might push you up the table. The others what? 25, 30,000 watching you every week. Or you're going to go and play Barcelona in Qatar. You're playing Manchester City in Japan. All those armchair supporters paying pay-per-view, 10 quid here, 20 quid there, buying all their shirts. They don't care about the 20, 30,000 Nottingham Forest fans. Fulham, for example, it's been documented that our owners prefer fewer season tickets because they can sell those seats more expensively per match rather than me paying every year. Why do they care about me? They rather I don't renew my season ticket because somebody else will pay more for it, game in, game out. The fans mean nothing here. With the fans, and the football brand for the last 120 years, it's all about money now. It's all about revenues. All these Saudi, someone mentioned earlier on that Saudi Arabia are going to start partaking in there. They'll throw their billions of dirty money into the mix. You have all these South American teams suddenly joining. It's going to become a world branded football. The clubs go and tour around the world. We can't afford to go and watch them, but then again, they don't really want us to go and watch because they're going to have Saudi supporters. Supporting Forest, even in the Champions League and in the Super League. They don't care about you and I.
No, that's very true.
Absolutely don't.
No, it ain't for the fans, man. It ain't about the fans anymore.
No input whatsoever. Fulham have got 15, 20,000 season ticket holders. That is it. We're not going to Qatar this, Qatar that, but there'll be others supporting Fulham from Qatar that will pay millions to go and watch the club play, or some of the bigger clubs. So it's a mockery. Supporters have no say in the matter, and these owners don't care about fans. They care about their clubs, their pockets, and their brand in all these global continents.
Let me just chuck one in there just before I let Deji and Dan come back in. if City are found guilty of the 115 charges, then what does it? Then what happens?
Exactly.
Great one. It's a great point, man.
They go into non-league football, hopefully.
Yeah, they're going to Conference League.
Surely away, Deji, or Slough Town, mate. Yeah, Canvey Island. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah, man.
Look, what did Man City players do with the referee the other week? They got 120 grand fine, whatever it was. Mitrovic last season against Man United, sent off. The manager got sent off. We lost the FA Cup, and he got a 9-match ban. Have we seen the same that happened to Manchiti, as someone called it on the comments? Come on. It's quite an awful one. This is exactly the same. Super League is exactly the same. There's these clubs that live in some sort of paradigm, and then this is it's a nonsense.
Yeah.
Preach it, Emilio. Preach it. Listen, last say, Deji, and we'll wrap up. What you saying about the Super League, bro?
Well, the thing is, obviously, we know that it's the cronies in Barcelona and Real Madrid that are doing this. And let's remember why they're doing this. The Premier League has become the biggest money generator, most watched league in the world. And Dan and Dave and Emilio, even on the streams, the amount of people who even comment from around the world. And I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And that's what the Premier League set out to do, to be a global brand. And bloody hell, in 2023, we can say that they achieved it. Now, for me, the one thing is, I always talk about the goldfish, because too much of something, you can spoil something. What makes the Premier League is the fact it's the fans and it's the football. Because I talk about the Champions League already being diluted. It doesn't make sense to finish 5th and be in the Champions League. Come on, people. Even to be in the top 4. It's already a mockery. If you didn't win the league, you shouldn't be in it. That's how you keep the prestige. Now, the problem that these guys are going to have is they think that us fans are so desperate that whatever they do to us, we're just going to take it. At the moment, Spurs fans, we talk about Daniel Levy, but there's a waiting list. But I can tell you this right now. If Tottenham is playing Boca Juniors or Al Hilal, that is not going to... I'm not going to watch that game. Partly because I don't want to watch Tottenham against Boca Juniors unless it's a Champions League game or a world... like the World Cup game that Man City are doing. I don't want to be playing bloody Barcelona, Copenhagen, bloody Tokyo FC in some world league. It's bloody crap. The whole point of it is, and look, you can see, we look at the new European League. The European Cup, there's 2 trophies in world football. World Cup for me and the kind of European League. The bloody European Conference League thing, I haven't watched a game for England in that competition since it's come out. It's bloody rubbish. Nobody gives a damn about it, and that's what will happen. This league will come, we'll be playing in Melbourne, and nobody cares. It'll be like, and they will lose money. So this idea that the fans are just going to take it and we're going to spend money to go around the world for what? I'm not interested in bloody what. I didn't watch the Europa Conference League. Call me privileged, okay? First world problems. I couldn't watch Europa Conference League, and you think I'm going to watch some bloody league where we're playing the whole world? It's not going to happen. I think the fans will march with their feet, and I just think they will realise it's not going to work.
Great fans mean nothing. That's my point, JG. Fans mean nothing. What do they care about us? There'll be all these other armchair supporters around the world. They go and watch.
That's fine.
In Qatar once every month. Saudi.
But you know what happens, Emilio? We will shift. We will do like the crazy gang. Wimbledon, we will set up our own MK Dons. Do you know what I mean? Dons, Fulham, Dons, bloody Nottingham Forest, and we'll go and support them. That's what will happen, because I'm not.
No, you're right, Deji. With you, mate, all the way. Keep going, kid. With you.
Love it, man.
So that's what I think, and also, I live in Essex. My local is Colchester. Yeah, well, let's get some money, pump some money into Colchester. Let's see them do something.
Yeah. So well said.
I'm not just saying for wishful thinking, but I just trust you. You guys are proper fans, and I know you're not gonna be rushing home or rushing home to watch Match of the Day to watch your team play Copenhagen in some world league. It's rubbish. I want to see Tottenham v Arsenal. I want to see Tottenham v Nottingham Forest. I want to see Spurs v Luton. I don't want to see Tottenham versus Getafe in some bloody league. No. It's rubbish. The idea of it bores me.
Yeah, I agree.
It makes sense, but it's rubbish. So I don't see it working.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Listen, I'm
Brilliant.
exactly the same, and I just feel personally like the fans will have their voice, and it will be heard. And you're right. It's people like Perez, who, by the way, is the most corrupt geese ever. And then you've obviously got Laporta, who's about as bad as him. They're obviously thinking, "What's everyone watching England for, man? What's going on? I want to go and get them to watch the league. Oh, well, because we're rubbish now, and the league ain't quite as competitive. Let's try and put something together." Girona showing them all up. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'd love to go see that team like that win it. It's crazy. But listen, we're going to wrap it up there, people. Just before we do, Deji, obviously Spurs have got Everton. What's your prediction for that one, brother?
Look, it's a tough game, but I'm not going to lie. There is such a thing in football as bogey teams. And unfortunately for Everton fans, we are their bogey team. We are we are the boogeyman, as they say. So I see it's going to be a tight game because Sean Dyche is a crazy guy. So I've gone with a 1-0 Spurs for this weekend.
Fair play, man. Emilio, you've got Burnley at home. Is that right?
Yeah, Burnley at home. On paper, looks an easy fixture, but at the end of the day, let's see all this fixture pile up, how that's going to impact the team. I think we're good enough to beat them. We should be beating them at home. I think we'll win 2-0, but for me, these are the games. Win these games against the teams around us or below us, and then we'll just push into mid-table safety. But yeah, I think we'll win 2-0.
Yeah, big up, man. And Dave, Forest, Bournemouth. What are you saying? That's City ground, man. Come on, Nuno, the new manager bounce, bro.
Do you know what? Sam asked me on back of the net, and he said, "What's your prediction?" And he got 2 for the price of 1. So, heart says 1-1. Head says 3-1 Bournemouth.
Oh,
I
wow.
just think they're a better. Yeah, I do. But the thing is, I am so monumentally wrong about so many things, and I'm kind of thinking, and what I actually really like owning up to being wrong. I was wrong that I thought Steve Cooper would stay. He's gone. I am the wrongest of all the wrong guys. So maybe we'll come on next week and you'll go, Gaffer. Dave Ashby, you said, and it might be, I don't know. To be honest, all I want, lads. I want some respectability, and I just want Bournemouth to lead the City ground. I said this to Sam. I'm repeating myself. I want Bournemouth to lead the City ground, thinking, "Phew, that wasn't easy." We're glad that's out of the way. That'll do me, really.
Fair play, man. I think Arsenal Liverpool's going to be 2-2. That's what I think. Again, repeat of last year. Does anyone see Liverpool Arsenal winning that game, or do you think it'll be a draw?
I see Liverpool winning, to be honest.
Is that because it's at Anfield, Deji?
Yeah, it's Anfield, but that Liverpool's attack is as good as any. I think their attack is
very, very good.
They're going to be difficult to stop, and and like Emilio said earlier, they're probably the most balanced team so far this season. And if not for Spurs, they wouldn't have lost the game so far this season. So for me, I think Arsenal, you haven't really played that level. Man City weren't even at their best. I think this is going to be your toughest game yet, and I'm not sure. Saka's not been in form. Martinelli's not been in form. I think you're in trouble, mate. I'm sorry.
I kind of agree with Deji. Actually, I think Liverpool are the favourites. But what I would say is, if Manchester United can go there and get a point, why not Arsenal?
Yeah, absolutely.
They won't sit back. That's why.
Maybe Arsenal come out, and want to attack. I tell you what, it's a fantastic.
I hope Liverpool are as bad in attack as they were the weekend, because if they have 34 shots on goal like they did against United, we'll be all right, because they were poor, man. We'll see, man. We'll see. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up there, people. Big up to Dave Asprey. Make sure you go follow him on socials. Make sure you head over to Cottage Talk and all Fulham content for Emilio at Teddy Nello. And make sure you go over to Deji Spurs, man, who's doing content for Spurs. A big up for coming on, Dej. I know it's busy times for you, bro. So I appreciate you coming on, bro.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, it's calm, man. Listen, guys, make sure you do us a favor, hit a like and subscribe as you leave. We'll be back for more content tomorrow, so make sure you are staying tuned. Until then, take it easy and we'll see you next time. Peace.